welcome to episode 36 of Fortress Comic News. I am Chris, alongside this guy.
Mike. This is me. It's been a while. I feel like now that it's episode 36, I'm going to work on it. I was talking to Chris about this. I'm going to work on getting some type of backdrop so you don't have to stare at my kitchen. Because I do have a studio apartment where my desk setup is located in the kitchen. And this isn't a kitchen podcast. It's a comic news podcast. Although I could try to cook for everyone, and it might be more interesting than what we have to say.
I've come to think of your stove as the third member of the show.
It really brings a lot. Oh, I was going to make a really bad kitchen pun. I was going to say it brings a lot to the table because the table is right in front of the stove. But it also, the stove is what cooks things, then you bring them to the table. I feel like I don't need to explain the pun. It explains itself.
Well, I've come to find in life that if you have to explain the joke, it makes it way funnier.
Yeah, and that's why I explain all my jokes. At least I like to think that. So on my way over here, I just got out of work, and I passed a gas station, and I saw the most amazing thing. I saw the real life Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. He was standing outside. He didn't have Silent Bob with him. He was talking to some girl with like purple hair. But he had the hat, the long hair, and like he was just standing there outside the gas station, like in his the normal spot, and he was just chilling. And I'm like, wow, one day I'll be that. I can only aspire to be so great. But
yeah, I could be your Silent Bob. I need to get a little bit fatter, but I could do it.
Then you just have to shut up. That's great. That's all it took. Oh my god.
The world will finally get what they want.
Sign me up, please. That was rude. I apologize for that. But
fuck.
So, this trailer drop. It's been a while. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on. Let's get into it. Game of Thrones trailer dropped. I believe it was on my birthday. Last Wednesday was my birthday, and I got a Game of Thrones trailer. It was interesting. There's a lot of people sitting on thrones, a lot of people traveling, walking, going by ships. We get to see the ships, the Greyjoy symbol of like Kraken, which was badass. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the trailer. I don't know what any of it means, but it looks pretty cool. I can't remember the guy's name. He does like blood magic, but he's like he grabs his sword and goes like he does like flame on with the sword. So he's like using magic to enchant his sword, which is pretty badass. I think it's really hard to get people on. Like Game of Thrones should win an award for like getting people on board with all these crazy ideas for like a mainstream show. Like if you ask anyone to be like, would you watch a show where a guy enchants a sword with fire magic? They'd be like, no, get out of here, nerd. Like nobody would watch it.
Go
but
play
now
your D&D, nerd.
Yeah, go play nerd. Yeah, D&D, nerd. But it's like now it's on HBO. It's like, oh yeah, that guy just flamed on his sword and enchanted it with magic, and it probably does fire damage now. But it's like nobody bats an eye. I love it. It's bringing people together. Yeah, so it was a cool trailer. They don't try to reveal much. You see someone fighting the Ice King, or whatever the hell his name is. So I'm guessing it's going to be Jon Snow. There's a pun there somewhere: the Ice King versus Jon Snow. Yeah, so I mean it's exciting. I mean it's going to be a good season. I've liked all the seasons, contrary to what Chris says. I think it's a good show. I enjoy it a lot. And also, an amazing show started. Well, Game of Thrones, I still think is amazing, but a really good. One of my favorite shows now on TV. And especially after seeing the first episode. Oh, it's raining out. I was like, "What the hell's that noise?" It's like, "What's going on?" It's like, I'm about to talk about Preacher. Is like God coming down to smite me. Season 2 of Preacher started, and the first episode was amazing. And I know you haven't watched the second episode yet, but the second episode was amazing. Partly because both these two episodes have so much Saint of Killers in them that it's like, it's all all you need to do to get a 10 out of 10 in my book for any episode of any show is just put Saint Killers in there, shooting people, walking down a road. You can put them in any show you want, and I'll just give it. It could show up in My Little Pony. Saint Ponies, 10 out of 10. That's the way I feel, and I'm gonna drink out of I pooped today cup full of water while you say how you feel about it.
I watched episode 1, and what I really liked about it is that it finally has the feel of the comic.
Yes.
The comic was very much like a road trip comic with some very heavy Christian mythology in it. Sorry for all the people I just offended with the word mythology there. But,
oh, I see what you did. Wow, what a jerk.
Yeah. But that's what I loved about it, is that it was about the 3 people coming together and their kind of wacky adventures, but it was laced with this backdrop of we need to find God, and we're going to go through all these different Christian myths, and even some stuff that's just kind of pulled together based on ideas that aren't necessarily in the Bible or biblical in nature, like, you know, them finding the great nephew of Jesus and all that. But that's the kind of stuff that it looks like they're heading towards, and I really loved it because it was just immediately, we're in a car, road trip, bam, Santa Killer shows up, kills a bunch of people, bam, let's go find this priest, he knows a bunch of stuff, let's ask him questions. It hit that flow of the comic that I was wanting from the first season.
Yeah, they've got tone, and it's almost like this is almost like, you know, the presence that we deserve. It's not even, I don't want to put it this way because I don't want people to think that I'm putting down season 1, but it's like, especially for the comic book fans, you know, getting through season 1, we talked about it. It's like, what is season 2 going to bring? What are they going to do with this? And they start off right from they know what people want. After watching these first 2 episodes of the season, they know what we want. They just need to incorporate it for the people who haven't read the comics to understand and give you a backstory, because that's just how the television has to work. The writing it for TV.
Yeah. Season 1 wasn't bad. It was good.
No, it was good. Yeah.
This just went steps above in my eyes.
Yeah, this is like, they've started off at 100 miles an hour at a police chase. Cassidy is just awesome in every scene as usual. I'm really on board with Tulip now. I was before. I mean, that actress is phenomenal. But the Saint of Killers, that guy is like copy paste from the comic. The fella that got playing him, who's also British too, which is crazy, is perfect, and it just works. The tone of the show is awesome. We get to see Saint of Killers just, you know, and he's walking like miles away, and he starts shooting at him with his guns, and it's like mortar fire, and they're like, what kind of gun is he using? And he's just using his pistols because he's like this, you know, he's this godlike entity that's just there to do one job, and then he goes back in the ground. It's like awesome. Did you catch the Easter egg for his family? Did you catch that in the episode?
No, I might have missed that.
So, if anybody's read the Preacher story, one of the biggest arcs is where we go back and we see his family, we meet his family, and we realize how messed up his childhood was, and
yeah, that's the same.
His grandmother, yeah, it's messed up is putting it lightly. It's probably the most graphic parts of, and hard to read parts of the book. But one of the parts is his grandmother traps him. Like, if he misbehaves, they put him in like this coffin and they throw him at the bottom of the lake, and he has to like just chill there and hang out. So there's a scene in the show, episode 1. You go back and watch it. They're all sitting around talking to Preacher and his friend that's a priest, and they're all sitting around the table, looking through these old family photos, and they start asking Jesse Custer about his family, and he said no, they didn't. Some of the family didn't make it to the wedding, like on the dad's side. And as they do that, they pan towards the fish tank in the scene, and then there's a like a treasure chest of the fish tank, and as it closes, it makes a sound of it like closing, like it's a large it's a large coffin closing someone, and that was just like a hint towards like, oh, it's coming. Like we're gonna tell you all the fucked up stuff that happened to this family. And it was really cool because he obviously is tormented by his past, and we're gonna find out why.
Oh yeah.
So that was like there's some really smart writing that goes on, and Seth Rogen just gets it, man. He knows what people want to see. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I can say.
From the beginning of a new season to a show that's being developed for HBO, it looks like David Lindelof is bringing Watchmen to HBO.
Yeah.
This will be separate from Zack Snyder's movie, and that's about all we know about it. But
yeah,
what do you think about that?
I think it's going to work well if they do. Okay, this is why it's good. I think it'll work well. Obviously, Preacher can go on they have enough content with those. I have faith out of seeing how they did the origin for those characters that they could add a couple more seasons to what the comic had. I'm sure the comic will get them through like five or 6 seasons. But for HBO and Watchmen, I think it'll like 10 or 12 episodes and be done with it. Like, don't do any more. Don't do the before the Watchmen stuff. Just do 10 or 12 episodes, and don't stray too far from the comics. Just give us what we want. You could do a little more here. More fighting scenes if you want to make it more interesting for people watching the show. But don't drag it out and use it as a money grab. But yeah, I think he has the ability to write something good there.
Yeah, I am all for doing it. I have a distinct feeling that it's going to be before Watchmen stuff, just because they're going to want more than one season out of it.
Yeah.
I also will stand firm in the fact that I believe that Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie is amazing.
Oh yeah, I think it's awesome.
I think
for
he
sure
did
is
pretty much everything right, and I even I love the comic. I love the ending to the comic, but the way they did it in the movie was the way it had to be done in the movie.
Yeah,
and I have no problem with it because it's so close that to be mad about it is just nitpicking.
Some people just like to have their squid monster.
Yeah,
it's just some people like that.
Yeah, but if they come out and say this is a mini series, 10 episodes in and out, I'm 100% for it.
Yeah.
If they say it's a before Watchmen thing, I'll be hesitant. I'll still watch it. I'm not going to lie to you. But I will be much more hesitant to be like, oh, I don't know if this is the right decision. But we'll see. I think it's interesting because I think that pretty much every comic, should be made into some sort of TV show. I was so happy when Walking Dead got announced that way. Same with Witcher. The long form fits television better. So.
Yeah. So one more thing for TV shows here. Powerless, we know, got canceled from I forget what channel, NBC. I don't know where it was, but after the passing of Adam West, they released the episode. The next episode is free on YouTube right now. Powerless. If you type in Powerless, Adam West will come up. The whole episode is like 25 minutes. The episode entails like Alan Tudyk gets a visit from someone at Wayne Industries on the board of like executives, and Adam West is actually the person who visits him, and it's a great episode. It's probably the last thing he acted in before he passed away, live action, and it's great because he kind of like, it's almost like when they change scenes, they do like the 60s Batman thing where he looks away from the camera and he's like, will our heroes find what they're looking, and they're like, who are you talking to? He's like looking out the window like they're like, why is he still talking? It's a really great episode. Anybody who's an Adam West fan should watch it. And now going to movies.
And that segues us perfectly into movies.
Yeah. So I know after talking about Adam West's passing, we were wondering if he finished the cartoon movie, his second cartoon movie. The first one was The Return of the Cape Crusader. The second one, I don't know what the title is yet, but we do know that he finished the movie. He did the voice for the movie, and also William Shatner is doing Two-Face, so that still is happening, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah, I'm glad we're gonna get that. It's gonna be, I think it'll be like the perfect, it'll be the perfect ending to his legacy, I think.
It'll be if done right. Like the last one they did really well, so I have complete faith in them. But if done right, it'll be the perfect send off for him.
Yeah,
it'll kind of be full circle in a way. And the idea from the get go, I mean, we were excited about when they announced. So I'm very happy that this is coming, and even happier that this is. I mean, I had a fear that even if this was done, it was going to get buried. I'm glad that's not the case. I really believe that this is something that should be brought to all of us fans and kind of given our last little hurrah with Adam West as Batman.
Yep. Other good, well, it's not really news yet, but Mark Miller was having a conversation with, I don't know if it was a director or a writer who was talking about how he pitched the idea for a Red Sun movie to WB. Okay, they're having a conversation on Twitter, so I don't know how much water this holds, but Mark Miller mentions to him that they're still pitching. There's 2 versions of a Red Sun Superman movie being pitched to WB. I don't know what that means. Okay, so this is my take on it. One, DC is starting to listen to or Warner Brothers is taking another shot after how well Wonder Woman did. But looking at these really good creator-owned properties like Red Sun, these one-shot movies where they're more worried about now not just making a lot of money, but taking this good content that they already have and making maybe a one-movie spinoff of it. Because they could do this they could do it out of continuity and just be like, this is an Elseworlds story. Start it off, introduce people to Elseworlds. Say there's multiple universe. Be like, if I did this movie, I would be like Grant Morrison doing an intro, kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about the multiverse, and like showing like, here's one of them. They zoom in on the multiverse. But I think this is really cool. I don't think I would enjoy it more than a Man of Steel 2 sequel. I would rather have a Man of Steel 2 first, and then maybe do Red Sun in a couple years or so. I don't know, a few years after that. But I think the biggest question for me is whether Ben Affleck can do a Russian accent as Batman.
Oh, jeez, I don't even want to think about that.
That'll be I don't know how that works, but it'll be very interesting. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, we all want a Red Sun movie or show or something. I mean, we all love Red Sun. That's all I can really say about it. It's just a fantastic story.
Yeah.
And most of Mark Miller's stuff becomes movies.
If anyone can get this done, it's Miller.
Yeah, he has a lot of pull.
Yeah.
He's a very cocky individual, but that being said, I mean, the one way to get movies made in the industry is to have your own production company, and he does. I mean, he has Marv Production Company, so...
Yeah. I do worry a little bit about the average moviegoer.
Yeah,
confused
for sure.
as shit when they see this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see it. I think it's a great idea. It's a good way to kind of differentiate yourself even more from Marvel. To say,
for sure.
How are we doing this? We're doing these one-shot Elseworld movies.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
It's funny because before I saw that news today, I was like cleaning up some of my comics, and I got the super all new Superman with who's Chinese Superman. And I was like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if they did like a Chinese Superman and showed the Chinese Justice League? And I'm like, I wonder how that would take. Like, would people embrace it, or would they be like, no, this ain't my Superman and all this stuff? Like, I don't know. It could go like 50-50, I think, with adapting those types of things.
Yeah.
One more piece of movie news we haven't talked about. Miller and is it Ted and Miller, or the two directors, Lord and Miller from the Han Solo movie left the movie like over halfway through it.
They didn't leave the movie. They were fired from the movie.
They were fired. Yeah, they were fired. Sorry. Which is interesting. We won't talk too much about that because we can't really speculate on what happened.
They flat out said what happened.
They had creative differences, right?
Well, creative differences, and Disney took one look at that movie and said, "This is not what we want." and they argued and said, "Well, this is our vision," blah blah blah. And Disney's like, "Listen, we've been doing this with Marvel for almost a decade, if not more. We know what we're doing, and this is a universe that you're playing inside of. So you're gonna go by our template," and they wouldn't stick with it, so they got fired.
Well, that's interesting for us. Okay, so first of all, this brings up two things for me. One is they left the Flash movie to do this movie. Mm-hmm. They are now back in talks with WB about directing the Flash. I don't know who the hell they picked up for the Flash movie now, but it wasn't Lord and Miller, it wasn't Rick Famuyiwa, who are both really good directors. So I would rather have Lord and Miller on this movie. If that's what comes of this, holy shit, I'm so excited. Two is, you bring Lord and Miller on a movie like this, these guys, and you know what they do. I mean, 21, 22 Jump Street, the Lego movie, these are these are fun, they're bright movies. People are laughing, having a good time in these movies. You know what these guys are about. And to have, it's almost like the thing we're talking about, where DC talked about their directors taking these movies and making them their own, which Patty Jenkins, kind of did, except for the whole last, little Zack Snyder-esque fight scene at the end between Wonder Woman and Ares. But yeah, maybe, this would be the best move for them if they know, this really works and it worked on the last movie. They should add some more brightness to the DC universe and pick them up for the Flash movie.
Yeah, and I think I said this at the end of the day with this. I believe it's non-news because, one, they've already picked up Ron Howard to direct it, so you've already upgraded right there.
Oh yeah, I don't think this isn't going to ruin the Han Solo movie at all. It's already got a great cast, and Ron Howard is more than capable.
I know it's a little bit cliche, and people Marvel Disney fan, but I'm sorry, Disney as of recently, and we'll just take Marvel out of this. Even if you include their Disney adaptations that they've done and the 2 Star Wars movies they've made, they have a great track record. They know what they're doing, and I have no issue until they flop beyond belief. I have complete faith in them. And I also, somebody reminded me of all the crap that Rogue One went through, all the different directors and all the different rewrites, and look how that movie turned out. So
yeah, no, I'm not saying this is any type of worrisome thing. I'm just saying that I'd rather have them back on the Flash.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that too.
Yeah,
I would rather have people who are very dedicated creative types working outside of that system, because that system doesn't fit. And the perfect example of that was Ant-Man. Yeah, Edgar Wright didn't fit the Marvel system.
Yep,
and he was cast out, and a great movie was still made. And Edgar Wright got to do what he wanted to do. I would personally rather those types of people just weren't in that system, because continuity is kept so tight there that there's not a whole lot of creativity. It's tough to say that because they are very creative, but there's not a whole lot of outside the box thinking you can do. You just kind of have to stick with, this is what this movie is, and this is what
unless they give you an obscure group of characters that they don't think will do well at all, like the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, and there are exceptions. I will give you that.
Yeah, but so yeah, obviously it's going to do fine. I think what the scary part to me is Disney just has the ability to call up Ron Howard and be like, "Hey man, we need you to finish this movie." And he's like, "All right."
Possibly reshoot the whole movie.
Yeah, so that's the scary part to me, is they have not only do they have the money, but they have the power to just call up Ron Howard and be like, you gotta shoot this movie, whatever he's doing. I can't imagine he wasn't busy.
I said it the second they bought Star Wars. I am ready to bow down to my Disney overlords.
Yeah,
it's hail happening. Mickey.
One day, we're all just gonna be you're gonna be sitting, and you're gonna get a phone call, and Disney's gonna be like, "We need you to go assassinate this guy down the street," and you're gonna be like, "Well,
listen, Disney is at.
Of course, I will. Star Wars is
currently at war with Europe. We need you to go fight."
Well, there's a spy sitting at Starbucks down the street. You need to shoot them in the head, or else we won't make Star Wars 23. And you're like, "Oh shit, where's the gun?"
All right, let's
Yeah.
move on to comic news.
Comic news.
So, I want to jump in. We're at the end of the month. We're about to get previews. So, we have sales numbers. Yay!
Yeah. Woohoo! Boring stuff. I'm just kidding.
I think
Let's talk.
this is. I want to do this every month now because I like sales numbers, but this month in particular really hit me because number one, and this is done by quantity, so number of units sold, not dollar rank, because dollar rank gets too confusing. Secret Empire, number one. Now, that's a big deal because that proves my theory that great stories win.
But does that include the free comic book day issue? Because that was released for free comic book day.
Because that was a Secret Empire 0.
Oh, okay.
This is issue number 1, so that was a completely different thing. Yeah, so that proves my point there. And also, Secret Empire number 2 is a little bit further down the list, so it shows that all the hubbubaloo there was bullshit, and people were actually out there for good stories. The only caveat I will put there is Secret Empire should be number 2, but if you look at the list, Batman 22 is number 3 for the lenticular cover. But then you go down a little bit further, and the regular cover is number 11.
Oh, that's stupid.
So that was, and the reason for that is A, it was 2 SKUs, and this is done by
Yeah.
SKU, and also the lenticular cover was more expensive. So
More expensive, and I think they made less of those compared to the regular. I think they sell out first of the lenticulars.
Yes. If you put those two together, Batman 22 beats Secret Empire by about an index of 10. So, pretty big margin.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting. But still, that puts The Button at number 1 and Secret Empire at number 2. That means 2 really good stories
Yep.
are right up there, and it just proves that point. You go further down, and it's the usual suspects. Flash 22 is on there. Guardians of the Galaxy are on there. And Walking Dead's on there. So, just shows both companies have a healthy stock in the market, and both had.
But as you go further down the list, is there more? I'm not trying to do this to boast, but are there more like Rebirth DC titles than Marvel? As you like go further down, is it
No
predominantly? No, it's a mix.
It's really back and forth, and I looked at the market share, and it really is 50-50.
Because I remember when Rebirth first came out, it was like dominating for like the top 20 or 30 titles, and now it seems to be even back out.
There's something always important I like to throw out with that, because that same thing happens when Marvel goes and does their new number ones. They dominate because a new number one will always dominate the market.
Yeah.
But really, when you go down it, like, we have Batman, Secret Empire 3, Guardians of the Galaxy again, Walking Dead, Star Wars, Jean Grey, Star Wars, All-Star Batman, Cable, X-Men Gold, Detective Comics.
Yeah.
It really,
I think Batman's kind of dominating the list.
Yeah,
for DC.
Batman's another one that is always up there. What's actually more impressive is the fact that Flash 22 was up there.
Yeah, I know, just because of the Batman crossover. That's awesome. Cool.
So after that, you remember that Here's Negan story they were doing in Image Plus?
Yep, that was released. That wasn't released as an issue, right?
No, so Image was doing this thing where in their Image Plus previews catalog, they're releasing 2 pages at a time.
Yeah.
And as comic companies always claim, this was never going to be reprinted anywhere else. This is the only place you can get the story.
Yep.
Well, if you go on Amazon right now, you can pre-order a hardcover copy of Here's Negan.
Which is a story that's never been released before and was never going to be released in a trade form, is being made in a trade.
So if you're a Walking Dead fan, that's a big deal. That's an original story being released.
I'm more excited for the next thing.
And I'll let
Greg Pak. Greg Pak, I met him at New York Comic Con. He's a nice guy. I told him his Batman Superman, he did the New 52 Batman / Superman title. which is great stories. They're great stories. The first story arc is and it's gonna take good writing to get me through the first story arc because Jai Lee draws it, and I despise Jai Lee. I was actually in the comic book shop last weekend with Chris talking about how much I hate Jai Lee. I do it on a monthly basis. I'm getting worked up as we speak. But Greg Pak got me to read this book. Nice guy. Met him at New York Comic Con. Can't say enough nice things about him. But now he's writing a John Wick origin story. Take all of my money. I don't even care. Just take it all. I'm just gonna throw buckets of money at him. I'm excited for this. The one thing we always talk about John Wick, and the one thing I always say about it is I want more development of this universe. Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be part of the continuity. But I still I'm ready to see John Wick doing crazy things to kill people, and I need that in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in other crazy new comic news, Wonder Woman is going to meet Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, which is really strange.
And it's being written by Gail Simone.
Well, yeah, which is, there's a lot of Gail Simone fans out there, so, it's weird because there's a lot of Wonder Woman fans, and there's a lot of Conan fans, and they don't really meet because there's that weird, they're not weird, but there's that fans of the Conan book that still comes out, that are religious to the character, like all the other books that still come out, I don't know, when they release a Spectre or like the Tick special and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of each of these fans are going to be picking up this book, and also that Gail Simone has written hasn't picked up a big DC book to write again. So this will be since Batgirl. So this will be interesting.
And once again, proving that DC is the king of the weirdest fuck crossover.
Yeah, I remember I remember when they did what was it, He-Man and He-Man
it's versus the DC universe.
Yeah, it was just so weird. It was awesome, but it was weird. You think it'd be really cool, but then it's almost like when you were a kid and you used to take like Batman and you punch the He-Man action figure in the face with him. You're like, this will never happen, and then it happens. You're like, this is kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about this.
Well, it's like they've done Power Rangers versus Justice League,
which is good, yeah.
Green Lantern versus Planet of the Apes. And
the Green Lantern Star Trek crossover was amazing.
Yes, I've never been that big into Star Trek, so I didn't do that one. But then this month they're doing the Looney Tunes crossover, and if you watch my top 5 comics to buy this week, right on there is Batman Elmer Fudd by Tom King. Elmer Fudd hunting down Batman. They just come up with the weirdest fucking crossovers. And they're great.
But who would you send to hunt down Batman? It only makes sense. It only makes sense. So you would send the guy who lives and dies by his gun to chase after the guy who doesn't use guns. It makes perfect sense.
Speaking of Mark Millar.
Yeah, Kingsman. I'm sure he's getting a big check for this. So we all know the Kingsman movie comes out pretty soon. I think the new one's got to be this summer, the end of the summer. It's getting a new comic with a new creative team. And this is interesting too. It seems like Image bought the rights to the characters, so Image is going to be releasing it.
Well, it was originally published under Marvel's Icon, which is basically Marvel's version of Vertigo.
Yep, exactly.
Except nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
So it's all creator owned. So he just took it and was just like, fuck you guys, and went over to Image with it.
Which is interesting because he's been exclusively writing. He used to go one Image book, and then he would write it a Marvel book, and now he's all over Image.
Which makes me wonder if Empress 2 will be at Image.
Yeah, which is interesting. Rob Williams and Simon Fraser are on the book. That's another. It's the same thing as John Wick. You have this huge universe of characters that you can do a lot of fun stuff with. And it'll easily be that. Can always guarantee the Kingsman and the John Wick origin books are going to be on my pull list for sure.
Yeah. So I'll dive into my talk.
This one says Marvel, so I'm just going to lean back and let Chris do his thing here.
So we've been looking forward to Marvel Legacy for a while. They finally announced some of the books coming out. I'm gonna jump really quick in and out with some of the stuff going on. So, Marvel Legacy is basically this new book that's coming out that is going to be basically the first Avengers team. So it's gonna be like Avengers Primal. If you played Far Cry Primal, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're going back to their legacy numbering. So instead of doing the new number ones all the time, they're gonna go back to legacy numbering and say like this is how we're doing it until they decide to reboot again. Their numbering, that is. So what's big about this is, I mean, a lot of the stuff that they've announced is like X-Men stuff, and you know me, I could care less about X-Men.
Yeah.
The big one that they announced is coming back is Marvel 2-in-1, which I'm really excited about. Marvel 2-in-1's one of the great Marvel comics from the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big deal because there's no Fantastic Four book, and this is going to be the Thing and Johnny Storm teaming up in their own book. So kind of the Fantastic Two. Other things that I found interesting, but I don't know.
Can you explain what the 2-in-1 mean? There's just two characters.
Marvel
teaming
2-in-1
up?
used to be a team up book that was the Thing teaming up with somebody. So there's the famous Thing wrestling the Hulk image that you've probably seen a million times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's from Marvel 2-in-1.
Okay.
It was a big book back then, and now they're kind of bringing it back with a new twist. The two things I found big about it were, there's a couple, but Punisher is going to be in the War Machine armor, which is different and weird.
And terrifying.
Yeah, Spider-Man is going to be in prison somehow, so he's going to be in jail, behind bars. I don't know how that's going to go. And the one I want to point out the most is that Mighty Thor, the cover they showed says the death of the Mighty Thor.
Oh, jeez.
So, I think we talked about it last week when I saw you. I predicted that Jane Foster was not long for this world, and they had shown the way to kill her, and that's how she was going to die within the next year. Well, it's probably going to be sooner than that. It's probably going to be like September.
Yeah. They're it's been greenlit. They're rush overing it. She's going to be done soon.
So, there's more. If you go online and look up Marvel Legacy, they announced 52 books that are going to this. Yes, 52.
Oh, really? Come on. Oh, my God.
That are going to this format.
We're back at it. This is the peak. This is the peak of the DC Marvel war is right now.
They're doing the exact opposite. Like, let's take 52 books and put them back at original numbering as opposed to rebooting.
You can't get any more war than this. Is like when you take a specific number of 52
there's no
and do
way
the opposite thing.
There's no way in hell that's not done on purpose.
Oh, hell yeah. You know, why would you go with 52?
Yeah.
Why? Man.
Okay, Mike. So we made it through the news.
That's fine.
What books
Competition's
did you read?
Good. Yeah, I was trying to find them. I don't know. Like I said, I gotta sort and organize them. I will say this. I need to give a shout out to, and we need to find this writer and hopefully get him on the show. I need to talk to this man. Shirtless Bear Fighter, number 1. Y'all need to sit around and listen to this. There is a book out there called Shirtless Bear Fighter that came out last week. You can find it through Image Comics. Buy it and read it, and buy 5 more copies, seal them up, and save them, because this book is going to be worth millions one day. Not really, but it is in my heart. Shirtless Bear Fighter is all it is. There's this guy, you find out his origin, that just lives in the woods, and he fights bears, and his house is made out of bear fur. He has a what is it called? Is it called the Bear Jet? I think it's called the Bear Jet, or the Bear. No, and not airplane. It's called Bear Plane. It's this giant like Quinjet looking thing from X-Men that he's just covered in bear fur that he flies around, and he just fights bears, and there's just bears attacking the city. So the Secret Service shows up, and they're like, then his name's Shirtless. They go, Shirtless, we need you to fight this bear. And the running joke is like he's walking around naked, and the blurred out part of his his junk is like the size of his leg, and every time he turns towards them, like all the secret agents are like, "Oh my god, stop my eyes!" and all this stuff, and it's hilarious. It's the type of, I don't know, it almost reminds me of like the type of humor that was in God Hates Astronauts. It's really blatant humor. Like it's meant to be funny, but also like really gory and fun all at the same time. Read it. It's on my pull list. You got to read it. Other than that, I mean, I read Batman. Oh, we already talked about Batman. Superman. Superman is really good.
Yeah,
it was interesting to see what's it, Manchester Black turn into a cow at the end. That was kind of weird. Don't really know what's going on there. Something else happened in the book that was pretty big, though. Do you remember? Was a big moment in that book?
I think I might be an issue behind because I don't remember Manchester Black turning into a cow.
Turning into a cow? Oh, spoilers. Sorry.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so it's cool. I mean, it's cool to have a happy ending. We'll see where this book is going to go. The Forge. We got to talk about the Forge #1.
Yes, I'm going to pull
which,
it out.
So the Forge, a lot is happening in the Forge. So the Forge is a DC book that is going into the Forge goes into is it the casting, and then this is all going into Metal, which is the new series by Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. It's another universe within the DC universe that it sounds like it is. It's a Metal universe where they have all different costumes and stuff. We don't really know much about it yet. But The Forge is an interesting story. It starts off Batman, Batman's in the Batcave as usual. And Mr. Terrific visits him. He comes back, and he had sent Mr. Terrific out on an exploration mission to go look at another universe. And he's like, "Oh, weren't you? I thought you were in this other universe." And Mr. Terrific is like, "You made me go do this thing." So first off, we have Mr. Terrific taking orders from Batman. We haven't, and this is the original Mr. Terrific from Earth 2. This is like, the fair play jacket and everything that we all know and love, which is awesome. And another huge thing, there's been a character I talk about all the time. He's one of my favorites, Plastic Man. We haven't seen Plastic Man since I don't know when. But I remember. So I don't know if you know this, but there's a storyline where the DC had to travel back through time, and they had to leave one of them back behind. And so what they did is they left Plastic Man because he's made out of plastic, and he'll never deteriorate or degrade over time. So what they do is they all go back. They go back in time. They go back to the future, and then what they do is they leave him at like the bottom of the ocean, and they come and get him like thousands of years later, and he's like lost his mind. And I think this is where he still is, because Batman has him locked up in like an egg in his Batcave, and he's still contained. So I don't know if he lets him loose that he's going to lose his mind and start, going crazy and killing people. I'm not sure, but it's interesting. He's like, maybe it's time to release him. So I don't know what they're going to need him for. And then there's a couple other things interesting that happen in the book too. I don't know if you want to talk about those.
Well, I got three pretty big things that happen in this book that I want to bring out. So 3 big things happen in this book that I need to talk about.
All right, well, you do it.
1, we get Aquaman's new look with his long, lustrous hair.
Oh yeah.
Big deal. They're going for the Jason Momoa look. Second,
they're going for the '90s Aquaman look. It happened there first.
Yeah, that's a good point. Second,
real talk.
We learn that Batman does have a superpower. He has the ability to grow the ears on his cowl at any time.
Oh yeah.
Because
for sure.
If you go from page to page, they just get longer. Like by the time he's on the moon, they're just fucking like a foot tall.
And I really think that has something to do with like all the different artists that worked on the book.
Yeah. So those just be fucking around. The big one that I want to point out is that they show the Outsiders. So
Yeah,
it is
yeah, they do.
revealed that Batman is using the Outsiders as a Black Ops covert team.
Yeah, which was awesome. We haven't heard
Yeah.
the Outsiders in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all I had.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of bullcrap. They're talking about the Thanagarians, who, if anybody doesn't know, it's Hawkman and Hawkgirl origin. Honestly, I don't need that origin again. I really find those characters not appealing at all. The whole ancient Egyptian thing, it's been done so many times. Like they did it back in, pretty sure they did it back in the Future's End thing. We did it again in the show on Legends of Tomorrow. It's like, I can only take so much Hawkman. I get it. He's got wings. He's really pissed off, and he hits people with a mace. Yeah. Like
there's some big Hawkman fans out there, and Hawkgirl for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It goes back. It's one of the oldest stories. I mean, yeah. And they always say she's one of the first female superheroes out there. But I get it. I'm more of a Batman fan. And then, surprisingly, we have Green Lantern working with Duke, the Robin of late, and they're cracking into the Batcave and they find some special area where Green Lantern's ring doesn't work, and we find out that he's keeping Joker locked away in there, and Joker is writing some crazy sequence some crazy code on the wall. He's scraping it in the wall. I think this is the third Joker, because there's supposed to be 3 Jokers on Earth, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and then obviously the other one is happening currently in Batman.
Yeah. Yep. So
I would love an explanation to that whole reveal.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is the Batman goes to the Fortress of Solitude, and he's hiding something there, and he calls up Scott Free, who is Miracle Man. Did I do that right? Mr. Miracle, Miracle Man. Yeah. I'm name dropping too. I'm getting all my names mixed up. But Mr. Miracle comes. They're like, he locks something away within the Fortress of Solitude that nobody could open, not even Superman. And he goes, well, I have the man who could pick any lock. I have Mr. Miracle here, one of the new gods, who shows up, picks the lock, and then he's like, all right, peace, see you later. And we find out that he has one of like the pillars from Infinite or Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's like that creates like the dark matter that was placed on Earth. So I don't know what the hell's going on now. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because there's so many things happening at once, and they all seem pretty equal weight of importance. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was a prelude. We'll see. Was that all you
Saga?
Had? Saga?
No, Saga. You got to talk the 25-cent issue of Saga. I think Chris talked about it before. It's a couple weeks old.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because this is a good jumping on point for Saga for anybody who's ever thought about picking up the book. It gives you a good recap of what's going on. But what's also interesting is we find out that, spoilers, that the baby or the fetus that the mother was carrying dies. But what's interesting to that is she must be absorbing the fetus or something, because she now has the ability to cast magic, which she didn't have before. That is a talent that the Moonies have, that like Marco can do. Marco can cast magic, and his mother can cast magic, but he cannot. She cannot cast magic, and now apparently something happened having the baby inside her that now she can cast magic, which is pretty cool.
Still say it's my favorite first page in the Saga book.
I'm trying. Oh, Welcome to Abortion Land. Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so apparently there's a planet in the Saga universe that you go to get an abortion. It's just a whole planet called Abortion Land. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. I read Invincible. Invincible is really good.
137.
It's the newest one.
Yep.
Where we find out that they played this whole thing like, oh no, Thrag is killing us. We need to retreat, and they're retreating back to Earth. we find out the reason they're retreating back to Earth is because the Vulturemites are chilling on Earth, and they all have families now that they care about. So they're like, "Oh, of course we'll fight with you." So they're getting ready to fight, and what Thrag is making us believe at the end of the issue is like, "Oh, I didn't send the best fighters out yet." So it's like everybody's trying to pull one over on everybody else. So like, "Oh, I duped you. No, I duped you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I duped you." Like that's what it's going to turn into. But then when all that's happening, it leaves the Vulturemites have families now that they've had children with, and these children are almost as powerful as the Vulturemites. They all have superpowers. Well, Robot finds the transmission where they all need to leave Earth, so he's going and taking the children away from their families and from the people who don't have powers. The other parents can't defend them because they don't have powers, so he's taking their children probably to make an army for himself or do experiments on them or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening, a lot getting ready to happen. So.
Two other big things that happen in this issue is that Tara starts developing her powers.
Yeah, Tara can fly now. Mark and Eve's daughter can fly now, which is pretty cool.
And Thrag has a matching pair of space raptors.
Yes, that was pretty. I don't know where you got those space raptors, but they can fly. Apparently, that was awesome.
That was a great
flying space raptors. Don't mess with them. Yeah, I think that's about. Oh, and I picked up Ash, the Evil Dead #0 issue that was out this week or last week for 99 cents. It's a really good jumping on point for anybody who enjoys the Ash versus Evil Dead. It gives you a recap of all the movies, of all the Evil Dead movies, and then it tells you that basically you find out Ash loses his job after he shoots because the movie ends with him telling the story in S-Mart of how he became the champion, and then the zombie attacks him in S-Mart. Well, this story leaves off with him losing his job after he attacks the zombie, and then he finds out that the lady that attacked him was a teacher, and that the whole school has gone crazy. So now he needs to go undercover as a substitute teacher and kill all the deadites that are in the school.
Jesus.
So it's going to be an interesting storyline. I think it's called like Ash Back to School or something corny like that. I love that character and all the stories that come from it. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right. So I got Star Wars Darth Vader #2. We talked about the last issue. So Darth Vader has to go and kill a Jedi and steal his lightsaber, and then infect that lightsaber with his hatred. This is kind of continuing that. He comes to a outpost with a bunch of clone troopers on it. Big thing here, they tell you, it might have been talked about in a book somewhere, but I haven't caught up with my Star Wars novels yet. They're no longer producing clone troopers, so they're talking about that in here. So that means everything after this is non-clone troopers. The other big thing in here was... Where is it? Oh, so Vader invades this base, and he kills a bunch of clone troopers, because apparently he just doesn't give a fuck. And they're protecting a whole brigade of Jedi artifacts in this space station. He has every opportunity to just steal a bunch of lightsabers, and doesn't because he knows that that's not his mission. So instead, he finds out that there is a Jedi waiting on another planet, one that's never been talked about before. And it's said that this Jedi is just sitting, meditating, and waiting because his whole purpose is to fight in war. So,
oh shit!
I'm very interested in the next issue.
So of course Vader can defeat him without a lightsaber. Like, what could go wrong?
Yeah, right. It'll be interesting. It's been kind of cool watching Vader use his different Jedi abilities without having to depend on a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Very good book.
In the day, you want him to have a friggin' laser sword,
Yeah, like he's gonna get it after this arc. So, yeah. I Hate Fairyland #13. This is kind of an alternate timeline story where we find out the hell's his name. This is great podcasting. Oh, Larry. So Larry, the mosquito or fly or whatever that helps, Gertrude throughout Fairyland, he kind of imagines, like, what would my life be like if she never came? And so that's the whole, like, side story here. And they give his kind of origin as well, where his dad wants him to work in the dung mines, but he decides to go to college. And I don't know, it's interesting. It's a good little, like, kind of left turn. But definitely not a great jumping on point for it. I Hate Fairyland's been really great, though, so if you can find trades, pick it up.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good book.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, Mighty Thor number 20. So this kind of introduced the idea that the Mighty Thor can die, so Jane kind of realizes that she can't keep turning back into Jane Foster, because as revealed issues ago, that every time she turns into Thor, any kind of chemotherapy she's been doing is then destroyed from her body, because when she turns to Thor, it gets rid of all plague and toxins from her body.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't know, chemotherapy is basically them just pumping poison into your body to try to kill the cancer cells. So she realizes that at some point she can no longer turn back into Jane Foster and has to stay Thor. So that's why I say there's a way that they're going to kill her. So she talks about that for a little bit, but the big story here is the reveal of the new Thor, the War Thor.
The War Thor.
And
of course.
Basically, what happens is Volstagg goes to this planet and sees all these elves that have been. He's actually gone to the Dwarven planet and sees all these elves that have moved there because of the war, because of Malkuth's war that he's fought against the Light Elves, and helps out a bunch of kids. And huge spoilers coming up here. Okay.
Watch out.
So somebody attacks the encampment, and Volstagg's trying to help these little kids that he's with, and in doing so, he gets hit, and these kids are burned alive in his hands.
Oh shit! That's super metal.
Yeah, and then he's kind of left there, just sitting there in goblin blood after he kills all the goblins that attack them, and gets this feeling that something is calling him, and it's the hammer for the ultimate Thor, the ultimate universe Thor. So basically Volstagg is the new Thor. And
interesting.
You said the words that's metal as fuck. It doesn't get much more metal than that.
Huh. Yeah. True. I have no idea who Volstagg is.
You've seen the Thor movies, right?
Yeah. Is he one of the trio that they hang out with or whatever?
Yeah, the fat one that always eats.
Yeah, that one?
Yeah.
Nice. The fat one wins once. All right, we could do it too. We could be Thor.
So we're gonna go on a Secret Empire double dip here. So I got Secret Empire number 4. Won't go too much into this. It's more Secret Empire. It's really good. Where is it? The big thing here is that we learn that Ultron and Hank Pym have merged and are one being now. You know,
of course.
As happens. And,
is it called Hanktron? So they should. If they don't call him Hanktron, the book should be canceled right now.
I guess it's gotta get canceled now. And it's basically them both going to Ultron, because Ultron has his own territory now, trying to get one of the fragments of the Cosmic Cubes. That's what this whole story is really about, is them trying to gather the Cosmic Cube together. Steve Rogers for his use, and everybody else to save Steve Rogers. And it's basically this whole, like, kind of weird, fucked up dinner party with Ultron, but he has Hank Pym's face. And it's, like I said, I keep saying it every time we talk about Secret Empire is great. It's possibly, I always flip-flop between this and Mighty Thor, but it's probably the best book being written right now.
Ooh.
Right now. This second.
And I say Shirtless Bear Fighter is the best book of 2017.
Let's be real here for a second.
I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book.
So the double dip is Secret Empire Underground. So this is one of the side stories. Team goes
course.
to the Savage Land.
Of course, there's tie-ins. Why wouldn't there be tie-ins?
It's a Marvel crossover event. What do you
Yeah,
expect?
it's gotta be. It's gotta have several tie-ins.
So this group goes to the Savage Lands to try to get, you guessed it, a cosmic cube.
Oh man.
So we got Scott Lang, Quicksilver, Hercules, Mockingbird, and Tony Stark, who is actually an AI. And yeah, they go to the Savage Land and shit happens and they leave. This, not a great book, but more Secret Empire, so I enjoyed it. I wouldn't recommend it for the layman. I think that's everything. Oh yeah, read some other stuff, read some Sword Quest. Shit like that.
All right.
I think that's everything.
Yeah. So before we go, we're kind of changing it up. We're gonna take a break or hiatus from the whole shitty villain of the week thing. Just because we're going to change it up. I know everybody really likes that. But in honor of Adam West, we're going to do... we're going through every 60s Batman episode. I have all the Blu-rays sitting over here waiting to be watched. That I watched a lot. I watched already a lot of them. But now I'm going to go in full order. We're going to review each episode. I think 1 or 2 episodes we talked about doing at once, or 1 episode each episode, something like that.
Well, we didn't really talk about it, but we can go into it here.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
thought is most of that show is 2-episode arcs.
Yeah. So we could go by 2
So
episodes.
let's go by 2 episodes.
Okay. Yeah, I already watched them ahead of time, but yeah, it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna talk about the things that happen in the episode that are completely ridiculous. There's obviously gonna be shitty villains involved. Well, but actually, you watch the first pilot episode, Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. He is so over the top, and it's like he kills it, man. He's the star of that episode. It's just awesome. It's awesome to watch. And then you get I'm talking about the episode right now, but you get to see Batman drunk. It's like, when have you ever got to see Batman in suit drunk? Like, you get the first episode of 60s Batman, I'm sold for the rest of the season. Yeah, so that'll be coming. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So that's going to start next week. So
Yep.
next episode. So episode 37, expect it.
Yes.
Book it.
Or your money back.
Which
But we didn't charge you anything for it, so
Okay.
yeah.
So, Mike, where can they find you?
You can find me at Ricker621 on Instagrams. I post a little bit here and there on Twitter.
Not Twitter.
If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my awesome Superman page that I bought from Comic-Con, which I'm very proud of.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Fortress News Chris and Twitter at Fortress Chris. I forgot where there's so much to talk. Obviously, the show was always on FortressComicNews.com, and if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment below, get into the chat. If you're listening to this on iTunes or any other podcast service, give us a review, share with your friends, do all that fun stuff. We love it and appreciate it. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks.
Slow pan into